Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today, again, we're going to be looking at a Dior Fragrances alternative to an all-time classic Dior fragrance, Dior Homme Intense. Now, of course, Dior fragrances are great, but they're not super inexpensive, let's face it. So I wanted to just share with you, as I've done a little bit before, some really inexpensive alternatives to some of your absolute favourite designer fragrances. So, I'm a big fan of Paco Rabanne's Invictus, great scent, but lately I've been reaching for Victory Pour Homme instead. The smell of victory, indeed. Another Paco Rabanne classic is 1 million, but I think I'm just as happy when I wear Milano Man Wealth. Don't worry, guys, I didn't forget the missus. At her last birthday, she was thrilled because she's a huge fan of Gucci Bloom, but I saved her some big money and picked her up a bottle of Coogee Bloom instead. Now, I've always loved the classic Polo Green from Ralph Lauren, but lately I'm just as happy with Solo Green. You can buy this one with confidence as it's part of the Queen's collection. Now, let's face it, there are some fragrances where only the real thing will do, and that's why I always go back to Dior Fahrenheit. Here's my latest bottle, and I know there's a lot of fakes about, but don't worry, I know mine's legit. I bought it here at Selfridges. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be having a look at an all-time classic, Dior Homme Intense, one of the most brilliant fragrances in the designer realm from the last 15 or 20 years. And we're going to be comparing Intense Homme from Dior Fragrances, which is their resurrection really of the old formula of Dior Homme Intense, and basically what they've done, as with so many of their resurrections of old fragrances, is they've taken a fragrance that we can't find anymore, or maybe a formula, a version of that fragrance that's gone, and they've attempted to revive it. They've got darn close with the smell, and they've also given us a projection and longevity that goes way beyond anything we can find on our shelves at the moment with their resurrection. So I think it's a really great idea that Dior Fragrances do these. They've sent me this one for free, of course, please do bear that in mind, but I'll try and point out the pros and cons of Intense Homme versus Dior Homme Intense. Recently I did a video about River Fougère, which is Dior's take on the original YSL Rive Gauche Pour Homme, a fantastic barbershop fragrance. Absolutely love that one. Completely replaces the now discontinued YSL fragrance with better performance. Superb stuff. And if you're interested to hear about Aquaventure 2016, their version of Invictus Aqua, the vintage 2016 version, let me know what you think. I'd be glad to do a review on that if people are interested. Got someone here very, very strong again, and it really has that punchy, very modern, aquatic kind of smell. Real crowd pleaser, maybe not the kind of thing I'm massively always associated with, but guys, I do like my guilty pleasures now and again, and maybe Invictus Aqua, or this version of it, could be one of them. So a little bit of information in general about Dior Homme Intense and its predecessors and other flankers of the Dior Homme line before we go any further. So the original Dior Homme was released first in the year 2005. This is the vintage formula with a silver stem inside, hard to find. I'm lucky enough to have one. It was created by perfumer Olivier Polge, the son of the famous main man at Chanel at the time, Jacques Polge. And the fragrance is defined as a woody floral musk fragrance. The original 2005 version was an eau de toilette. The Dior Homme Intense we'll be coming on to in a minute is the Eau de Parfum flanker of this one. The original fragrance really was revelatory. It's important to understand, guys, that if you're frustrated that when you go to the stores these days, there's not that many exciting new designer releases which are groundbreaking and smell different to everything else out there. This one certainly falls into that category. It had this unique iris accord that reminded many people of the smell of lipstick or smelling their mum's makeup bag as a child. Maybe there's some kind of Freudian thing in here. It combined it with some bergamot and fresh notes. Some people think a hint of pear, maybe an undertone of chocolate, a little bit of leather, some sweetness, some floral accords. A really, really brilliant and unique fragrance, totally unique in its smell. Very kind of modern, maybe if you could call it a metrosexual kind of scent. And now there are many, many fragrances out there which copy this one. Things like Prada's L'Homme, etc., etc. Gentleman, Givenchy, EDP, more modern releases that use this waxy iris accord to great effect. Guys, remember, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed by hitting this button down there, then you won't miss any of my future videos. Okay, fast forward then a few years. 2008 or 2007, depending where you look online, saw the release of the flanker Dior Homme Intense, an eau de parfum version, richer, maybe a little tiny bit darker and less fresh, a little bit more sweetness in there. And we've now got a Resurrection series version, which I'll come to in a moment. So the original Dior Homme Intense fragrance was released in 2008. And again, it was just a total brilliant fragrance, really a well-loved fragrance. Some people prefer the Eau de Toilette, some people prefer the Intense. I favour the Intense narrowly, I think, even over my vintage bottle. Mine's a 2015 version of the fragrance, I think, in terms of when I got my bottle, and it's really, really nice. I haven't smelled the vintage version. I love this. I find performance to be decent. It is okay, but it's not amazing. Sometimes you might feel it's a little disappointing for a so-called Intense version. So in order to solve that problem, the lovely people at Dior have given us Untitled Homme. So the idea with this one is they've actually based their formula here on the 2008 version, the original formula for Dior Homme Intense. I'm not going to pretend that I can tell you about the differences because I'm not familiar with the old version. I don't think it's a fragrance where it's changed beyond recognition when they reformulated. It was Francois Demachy who made the new version in 2011 when Dior decided to go in-house with their perfume creators. I don't think it's one where the smell has completely been ruined by the reformulation or anything like that, but most people agree that the older version maybe had a little bit more oomph, a bit more power. Dior fragrances are concentrated at extract de parfum, which is a stronger, higher level of perfume oil than an eau de parfum. The official note listing for Dior Untitled Homme is iris, vanilla, lavender, amber and Virginia cedarwood. I will link the Dior website in the description of this video. And I've been testing this one out for quite a few weeks now. The Dior fragrance is going to cost you $55 on their website, or however you translate that to your currency around the world. They do have worldwide shipping. They have a code on at the moment, as they often do. Dior 15 gives you 15% off all purchases. That's for a 30 ml. So it's not particularly cheap per ml, but the fact that you buy a smaller size bottle brings the price down. It's pretty accessible, that price tag, into, you know, maybe not mega cheap per mil, but you can get a bottle without shelling out a huge amount of money. So compared to the original fragrance, Dior Homme Intense, although not the vintage version, how do I find the comparison? They're certainly not identical, but they're not supposed to be because my bottle's not the vintage one. I've got the Dior Homme Intense on here and I've got the Dior one on here. The Dior fragrance comes off more like an extract de parfum, as you would expect. It's a little richer, it's a little denser. It seems to highlight maybe the base notes a little bit more, that hint of chocolate, that kind of leathery undertone that I get with Dior Homme Intense. And of course the beautiful waxy iris note is there. It's a very, very nice scent indeed. The original Dior Homme fragrance, the Intense here, maybe just a little bit more airy and floral and very much lighter on my skin and on the paper. It doesn't seem to last as long or feel as strong. Whereas the Untitled Homme is very, very unctuous and strong. It really sticks to the skin and you get that lovely waxy floral iris aura around you, almost a powdery feel. Very, very rich, very sumptuous, and a really, really nice performer, and just a great, great alternative. To be frank, if I was going on a night out and I wanted to wear Dior Homme Intense, but I was kind of thinking I want to make sure I've got a bit of oomph, I want to project a bit in the air, nowadays I'd probably reach for my Untitled Homme, because Dior fragrances, if they deliver one thing, not everybody likes what they do, I know. If they deliver one thing, it's performance. I'm not overly obsessed with performance. If a fragrance doesn't last as well as you'd like, get a decant, spray some when you're out, whatever. But I know a lot of my viewers really care about the performance, the longevity of fragrance, and Untitled Homme delivers on that front fantastically well, with something very, very similar in smell to the original Dior Homme Intense. The development of the fragrance in neither case is that massive. I find it relatively linear. Some people may not agree with that. You get a little bit of a powdery, sweet vanilla thing towards the end, and maybe some of the sort of iris floral element just fades away a little bit. But it's not a dramatic development in either case. So for me, I would say Untitled Homme, a great option if you're looking for an alternative to modern, weaker versions of Dior Homme Intense. It's a total classic fragrance. Take your pick between whether you like Dior Homme, the original Eau de Toilette, the Intense, or maybe this one, Dior Homme Parfum, which takes things to a sort of darker, more leathery, heavy kind of area. So, you know, also really good performance on that one, but it doesn't smell the same as the Intense. So you can take your pick from all the different Dior Homme versions, but if you're a fan of the old school Dior Homme Intense, Untitled Homme does a really great job of recapturing that, I think. Okay guys, so thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about that in the comments down below. And remember, whatever you're doing in life, let's project. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Don't forget, if you'd like to join the Smelly Army private members club over on Patreon, there's a link in the description to do that. It costs just $2 a month and you get an extra video from me every week, plus you get to watch everything I've already uploaded in there. We're building a really nice community, lots of interaction, and I'd love to see you in there.